Welcome everyone to our second kindergarten parent information session for 2022. Those of you, we had one probably at the end of term 2 online also. We had about 72 parents come online to that, which was great. And that was just more of a general overview of kindergarten and transition, and we didn't really go into the nitty gritty of what happens when your child starts kindergarten at Camden South, and we didn't talk about Best Start. So that's what we will be talking about today, and you'll also have an opportunity to ask questions at the end. Hopefully we have the answers. If we don't, I've got my trusty notepad here and I can write them down and we can get back in contact with you. So just before I get started, I'm just going to do an acknowledgement of country. And I'll just let somebody in as well who's just arrived. Okay, Rebecca Dinham, welcome, Rebecca. Okay, excellent. So I'm joining you today from the Eora Ora Nation, also known as Sydney, a place I've lived for 37 years and worked as a teacher for the past 16 years. It's also a place I met my husband and am raising my 2 beautiful children on, who also go to Camden South Public School. Camden South Public School sits on the traditional land of the Dharawal people, and I feel privileged to live and work here every day. I'd like to recognise and pay my respects to the elders and ancestors of the land, as well as any Aboriginal people that may be joining us today. And I'd like to thank the traditional custodians of the land for caring for country for thousands of generations. So this continent always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Okay, moving through. So throughout the session, please, if you have any questions, please write them through the chat feature and send them through to mine. My name is Amanda Adams. Send them through to me. And when we go through that question and answer session at the end, I will go through them all. And we have a team of us here today who will be able to help answer the questions. So the team that is here today, we have Mrs. Belinda White. So she is currently our kindergarten assistant principal and instructional leader. For this year, we have Melissa Taylor, so she's here as well on here as one of our current kindergarten teachers, so she can give a wave as well. And we have Jade Emmett here as well. She's also one of our instructional leaders that works at our school and works with all of our teachers too. So they are all on here to help answer the questions as we go through. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm Amanda Adams. I'm one of the deputy principals at Camden South, and I'm going to talk to you just briefly about Best Start. So a lot of questions have been coming through about what is Best Start, and particularly if you're a new family, you might not be aware of what Best Start is and what we do. So I'm just going to go through that with you now. Here's some of our current beautiful kindy students down here, lovely photos. Okay, so building on your child's prior and current experiences helps them to feel secure and confident and connected to familiar people, places, events, and understandings. If your child goes to preschool, that comes from the early years learning framework, and that is what all of our preschools in Australia work towards. And we make sure that we take on their experiences from preschool and at home when they're transitioning into kindergarten. It's more formal when they come to kindergarten, but we do really like to make sure that there's a smooth transition, and we definitely take on board what's happening in preschools as well and at home. So we know that they start school with having many varied experiences that have developed and shaped their language, their literacy and numeracy knowledge from within their own family as well as the community. So we just want to acknowledge that we know how important you guys are as your child's first teacher. So Best Start, parents and prior to school services, they provide those foundations of learning before it goes into the formal setting, as I just said before. But Best Start assists children moving smoothly from that informal setting into a more formal learning setting. And it gives time for teachers to develop a nice relationship with each student individually before they actually start in the full classroom setting. Is it a test? Everybody always asks this. Is it a test? No. Best Start is not a test. It is the classroom teacher working with each child one-on-one on literacy and numeracy tasks to gain a strong starting point for planning effective teaching and learning activities. And the children do not pass or fail this test, and there's nothing you need to do to prepare your child for this because it's not a test. Who is involved? All the kindergarten children in public schools need to participate. It's administered by a classroom teacher in a classroom environment in the school setting. So it could be completed by any one of the kindergarten teachers for next year, which we're still finalising, or it could be completed by myself or one of our instructional leaders. It depends how many children we have and how many days we have to administer their assessments. So children complete most tasks individually, and the classroom teacher observes and makes records either on an iPad, a computer, or on a piece of paper about how they respond. So Best Start begins with the teacher interviewing at the beginning of the school year, and in a moment I'll give you those dates. Place one-on-one, sorry, someone else is coming in. Takes place one-on-one and usually in the classroom setting. And again, they just record, the teachers are just recording what the students are saying. There's no right or wrong answer, and you cannot pass or fail. They ask a series of questions, and they might be using a computer at the same time. Sometimes technology doesn't always go our way, and sometimes they might be recording them as well. Here's an example of one of the questions that they might be asking for an English question. They might read a story and then it says, tell me what happened in the story. Here's an example of a numeracy question. They might say to the child, can you start counting and I'll tell you when to stop. So our Best Start interview dates for next year are February 1st, 2nd and 3rd. As we know, February 4th is going to be our first day of kindergarten. It starts on a Friday. They get one day with their class before they have the weekend, and then a full week the next week. However, we have 3 days of the Best Start assessments first. They take about 30 to 40 minutes. It can take a shorter period of time if the child is a little bit nervous and doesn't want to talk. It can take longer if they talk a lot. Letters will be sent home to you indicating your child's time, their date and time by the school's email by the end of this month. So before school finishes, you will receive that information. Please do not worry if your child doesn't speak a lot to any of us. We know that, and so please do not worry. They might be very nervous and they might be able to read or talk to you at home and may not say anything to us on that first day, but it's really good for us to start that relationship building, and then we can observe in the first few weeks and see what they really know. So please don't worry about that. I just want to show you, I'm just going to get out of this for a moment. I'm just going to show you a short animation that might help you understanding the importance between the department and our school and having a strong start to school.
Starting school is a much anticipated next step on your child's educational journey. It can be exciting and stressful at the same time. You can support your child's feelings towards starting school by engaging in positive conversations with your child about what school might be like, what they are excited about, worried about, and what they might miss about preschool or being at home. Strategies you could use to ease your child's possible anxieties are: encourage your child to ask questions and think about what might be the same and what might be different. Talk about their new routines, what it will be like, who they will interact with, and how they will be supported throughout their transition. Encourage your child to ask a new friend their name and some things about them. Talk about being supported by older children at school, such as buddy programs, exciting them about how they will learn more about their favourite topics, reassuring them that what they learn at school will be building on what they already know. Remember that the learning that your child is experiencing at home and preschool is also helping them with their transition to school. Everyday skills like putting on their shoes, filling up their drink bottle, packing their lunch, and finding their belongings are just as important as more formal learning when children are getting ready to start school. The more opportunities you can give your child to practice their independence and self-help skills, the more confident they will be in doing these things when they start school, which will put them in a much better position for learning at school. If this is your first child's transition to school and you aren't sure what to expect or how to help your child, speak to your child's preschool teacher or contact the school for advice.
All right, excellent. It's now over to Mrs. Belinda White, and she's going to be talking a little bit more about that transition.
Hi everyone, today I'm going to just talk about a few things that parents always ask, or things that you want to know to make sure that you're ready for that transition to kindergarten. And one of the first things I'm going to talk about is our start and finish time. So at Camden South, we start at 8:55 every morning. Some people think it's 9, but it's 8:55. So our gates open till 8:55. And the gates that you can use, we've got Peter Avenue, which you all walked in on for orientation. We've also got our front gate and our back gate. For the Friday of their first week, so that 4th of February, and then from the second week, their full week, they will actually finish at 2:40. So they'll finish at 2:40, which will allow the teachers to get them out of the classroom and to the gates before the rest of the school come out. We are hoping, fingers crossed, everything crossed, that for that week and one day you will be able to enter the school and pick them up from their classroom. That's our best possibility that we want to. And if that changes, we'll be able to let you know at your Best Start interview or beforehand on Seesaw. So for those, that week and one day, you'll be able to come in, collect them from the classroom before all of our other students come out. And then from their week 3, meaning that week 1 is their one day, then they've got their full week, then week 3, they will start to come to you. So the kindergarten teachers will give you a letter that will go home. It'll go home probably when they have their Best Start interview to give you some time to work out who'll be picking them up, if they'll be catching a bus, before or after school care, so that you can communicate that with the teacher, because it's really great, the communication we have at Camden South, so the teachers know on Monday your child's getting picked up at this gate by this person. And then for most, nearly all of term 1, each of the kindergarten teachers will actually walk the kindergarten students to, if it's Peter Avenue, there'll be one kindergarten teacher with all those kindergarten kids. There'll be someone for back gate or front gate. So these are the discussions, and you can think about before you start school is where you're going to pick them up from after they've had that full week of when they go to finishing at 2:55. So we start at 8:55 and we finish at 2:55. Also, parents then say, but what happens if something changes to what I put on those lists? Because sometimes, Nan's picking them up, but she can't get there and I'm sending Auntie. How do we let them know? Our office ladies are amazing. If anything changes with your pickups, you can seesaw the teacher, but the teachers are busy during the day and they may not get that message. So you can ring our office ladies who will get a message to your child or the child's teacher straight away. And then the teacher knows the change, and then they can help put them where direct them to where they need to go. Because sometimes as a parent, things change. So it's nice to know you've got that option as well. The other common question that parents ask is, where do they play at recess and lunch? So especially transitioning from a preschool environment where there's, not a huge amount of people playing in a playground, they've got a few teachers there, to the big school. So we do have, for the first 3 weeks, they do only play together, only kindergarten play together under the COLA, which is where you all congregated at orientation. So they'll play under the COLA, and then for those first couple of weeks, there'll be 2 kindergarten teachers on duty each time, because we want that familiar face. So if they're feeling worried, or they don't know where to put something, or they don't know what's happening, or a bell's happening, and they're learning those school routines, we know that it's really important to keep them together and to keep them with teachers they're familiar with. Also, it's really important, especially if you've got siblings at the school, that they develop friendships within their cohort, within kindergarten. So what we want to do is to lock those big brothers and sisters away for a little bit. They can play with them at school so that they can develop their own friendships. So when they go into the playground, we can then have that rest assured that they do have friends. The other thing that I want to let the parents know and let you know, that eating time is important, and parents think, what happens if they don't finish their lunch in time? How do you know that they're eating? So our kindergarten teachers bring them out at eating time. So in the first couple of weeks, they'll have longer than 10 minutes. They'll have probably 20 minutes to start eating so that they're ready for play. But normally we have a bell that goes at 10 minutes before for eating time. So that eating time, they come out, the teacher will stand or sit with them. They'll sit in a circle. They'll be able to assist them to open their packages if they still are a bit with their fine motor, they can't open those packages, or they've got a brand new lunchbox and the clip's hard. teachers are there, and then to also ensure that they've eaten their sandwich or eaten something before they go to play, because we know play is so exciting in big school, but we also know they need to feed their bellies for their brains and have all that ready to go. So we really ensure that they have that happening. We also have what's called Little Kids Club. So on the veranda near where where the kids went up to the classrooms for orientation, we have one of our support teachers who stays on the veranda, and you can see a picture here where they've got the Lego. So the kids, they've got some structured play, because we know they've come from a preschool environment where there's lots of structured play into a playground. And for term 1, we have some of our senior kids bring out some equipment. So we might have some stilts, some balls, or some hoops. So things that they can play with, as well as going up to Little Kids Club, which will have colouring, Lego. Sometimes they have like dolls, hairdressing salons set up. They have little offices, they have cars, they have lots of play. So if you're worried about that social side for your child, there's also a learning assistance officer who can help them develop and build those friendships as well. And within the playground, we have some great behaviour, positive behaviour awards. So like Caught You Being Good. So teachers on duty will give out kids Caught You Being Good. They put their name in it. And so they're for those kids that are looking after our playground, playing nicely, being really good citizens, and following our school rules of wearing a hat and not running on the concrete, being nice to their friends, kind, including people. So we notice those people to give them Caught You Being Good, and then at our Cater to assembly, they can be drawn out for a school award. The two last things I'm talking about is Sports Day. That's very exciting when you're in kindergarten, especially when we've got so many active little people coming. Sport Day is exciting. The sports uniform is our normal shirt, and then we've got shorts, and that's the day the teachers will ask them to wear their joggers. Now that information on their first day of kindergarten, they will get a welcome note, which will have the information, things like when their library day is, when their sports day is. When we've got things like athletics carnival, they'll know their house colour, so they'll be allocated a house as well. And the last thing I'm going to talk about quickly is scripture. So everybody received a note when they came to orientation, or when they filled out and brought back their paperwork. That scripture note, if you've got it and you've handed it in, that's amazing. If you've still got it, our office lady said they're happy for you to scan it and email it to them to put with your enrolment, or when you come for your Best Start interview, you can bring it then, and the students will then be put into, we offer 2 scripture classes. We offer Christian and Baha. These run for half an hour. Usually it was a Tuesday afternoon. Whether that'll be the same next year, we're not quite sure, but it's half an hour a week, and you can opt into those, or there's non-scripture, which means that the kids will go to another room and do some independent work there if they're not participating in scripture. And I think that's all from me. I hope it wasn't too much information, but it was informative enough to answer some questions that might be niggling around in your head at the moment.
Great, thank you. I can see there's a question that's come through the chat, but I think it's just about to be answered on the next slide. If not, I'll address it in the questions at the end. All right, over to you, Mel.
Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Taylor, currently a kindergarten teacher at Camden South, and I'm just going to talk about a few things that your child needs to bring to school with them. So number one, of course, is a bag. Just make sure that the bag you buy them is large enough to fit a lunchbox in, and a drink bottle and a jumper. Not too compact, because some of those lunchboxes this year have had the drink bottles on the side, and they do sometimes get a little bit hard to put in your bag. They also, of course, need a lunchbox that they can hopefully open themselves, and a drink bottle, all clearly labelled. We really stress this a lot, to write their name, and once you know their class, to write their class as well, because then if it is left in the playground, we can quickly return it to the right classroom. They also need to bring with them a change of clothes, because unfortunately accidents do happen. only last week, one of my boys fell over on the back oval in the mud and just needed to change his shorts, which he had a spare pair in his bag. So a change of clothes in a plastic bag is always a good idea. They do not need a pencil case in kindergarten. I know at the beginning of the year, they're very eager to come to school and bring pencils with them, but we supply all the coloured pencils and lead pencils that they need in kindergarten, and we use the nice big thick ones to help with their fine motor and pencil grip. So they can save their special pencils and pencil cases for homework or using at home instead. Mrs. White spoke about the uniform, the sports uniform. The boys often just wear the blue shirt and shorts every day. The girls are more than welcome to wear that, and we do have the checkered dress. All of these are available at Lowe's, but we also have a second-hand uniform shop at school, which you may have seen at kindergarten orientation, and they usually advertise when they are going to have days where you can come and buy the uniforms. Unfortunately, with COVID, that hasn't been very much recently, but fingers crossed next year that will be able to operate a little bit more. The canteen. The canteen is a huge excitement when you're in kindergarten. The children love to buy at the canteen and they love to go up and ask what they can have. We just ask for the first couple of weeks that you don't send them with any money until their classroom teacher has had a chance to walk them around the school and actually show them where to line up. At the canteen, there are 4 different lines for each stage that we have, and there's one just for kindergarten so that they don't feel overwhelmed at the canteen. They've got their own space. So in that first week or two, their kindergarten teacher will take them to the canteen and they will practice lining up. And the canteen ladies are usually great, and they have a little turn of going up and saying, please, can I have a super duper or a juice cup? So they get to learn where to line up and how to speak to the canteen ladies. So if you could just hold off on the money side of things for the first couple of weeks until they've become a bit more experienced and know their way around. You are, of course, more than welcome to order their lunch, and that can be done via the Flexi Schools app, which is really simple. You just type in what you want and you can pay online. The order comes to our classrooms in the basket, clearly labelled with what they have ordered. You are more than welcome to still do it the old-fashioned way with the paper bag and writing on it, but it is much safer and easier to do it online, and then there's no money lost on the way to school or comes out the bottom of the bag in their school bag. The other thing that we have every morning, I think throughout the whole school, not just kindergarten, is fruit break. Some teachers call it crunch and sip, some call it munch and crunch. I know in my classroom, I usually read a story and they eat their fruit while I read the story. So it's got to be something that they can eat within 5 to 10 minutes. It's easier if it's something small, like some strawberries, blueberries. It could be vegetables too, carrot sticks, cucumber sticks, just something simple that they can have in the mid-morning, because we know a lot of our children eat breakfast early, and then if they're not having lunch till after or at 11, their little tummies get quite hungry in that morning session. So a little bit of fruit helps with that hunger and also helps them with their learning. So we just ask that you pack something that's not too messy, but that's easy for them to eat during a story being read. I think that was all from me. Looking forward to seeing all the little boys and girls next year.